I would like to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians, the Bundjalung people, of the land on which we meet today, and pay my respects to elders past, present, and emerging.
Welcome to the Workforce Australia Entrepreneurship and Self-Employment Podcast. I'm your host, Rachel Turner. Join me for real talk, tips and tricks from entrepreneurs who've walked the walk. Today, I'm super excited to have Frank McWilliams as my guest. Frank is a long-time entrepreneur. You may know him from Frank McWilliams Surfboards. He's also been winner of the Australian Federal Small Business Award for Northern Rivers, and he works currently as an advisor and mentor with ETC to some very fortunate startups in the Northern Rivers region. So Frank, you are a Northern Rivers local from Lennox?
Been here since the 80s, so...
Kind of qualify.
Qualify, yep.
And you are a total serial entrepreneur. I know when I first met you, you alluded to having had a couple of businesses, obviously, that you're still shaping. But when I actually read through your CV, sort of prepping, because I asked you to come on the podcast, I was like, oh my God, you've had, 6 businesses?
Yes, I've had that many, and many over my lifetime. That's probably in the last 25 years.
Amazing. You've had everything from surfboard shaping to solar energy. You've been involved in training business. Yep. Talk me through that. How did you get involved in your first business?
Business came to me really easily because a friend of mine was building boats and he wanted me to help him. And I said, yes, that'd be great. At the age of 19 or 20, I decided that we'd do that under a contract basis. And it was great for me because all I wanted to do was surf. Yeah. And surfing goes hand in hand with having your own hours.
Yeah.
Okay. And so we used to work our own hours, do our boats, do a great job, and that was it. And from then on, I always was looking for things that I could do or sell or make so I could have my own business, because I thought that's the way to make money. Your own business, you don't have anyone telling you what to do, you're in control.
The appeal was making money for yourself and being your own boss, right?
Absolutely, absolutely. That's very important. Yeah.
So you obviously had the manufacturing skills and all of that. Did you find that that was enough to sort of get started in business, or did you sort of find that there was a big skills gap in actually being your own boss?
Well, it's the journey really from being involved in manufacturing and doing other things, even making my surfboard at 12 underneath my own house. I was always working with my hands, but nobody ever taught me how to run a business or manage my money. But the drive to have a business and keep doing it was always there. So you do the best thing that you think's possible. So as I went from business to business, from building boats to water slides to surfboards, all those sorts of things happened, but unfortunately the businesses didn't do well.
Okay.
Because I didn't have the skills for business, only the skills for making things.
So when we've spoken previously, you said that when you were working in solar energy, that business gave you some of the best business skills learning that you had over your life as an entrepreneur. How did that sort of happen? Why that particular business?
Well, it's really a journey from the businesses that I had, and I had an international surfboard business that, although we had the accolades, we didn't do that well, and I personally didn't do that well because I still didn't have the business acumen. So after living in Europe for a few years and shaping over there, I decided that I really had to take serious lessons about if I was going to work again and work for myself, what could I do? Yeah. And one of the things I did was go to a mentor who showed me some of the things where I fell down. Yeah. And then I started to apply those when the opportunity came up to do solar. Well, I did insulation first and that sort of failed. And then we got on the solar wagon and I started a company here by myself, walking the streets just selling solar.
Wow.
And I used that business mentor and some of the things that I'd learned from all the mistakes that I'd made. Yeah. And for the first time really in my life, even though I was in my 50s, it all came together. And the business came together, the work came together, the business acumen was there, and I was learning. And so Greener Energy, where I worked and ran that company, we went from having nothing to 7 salesmen to selling $30 million worth of solar in 3 years.
Wow.
And, that was a success in my mind because I was making money, I was saving money, and I felt good about it.
How did you find your business mentor? Was he like in the same industry? How did you connect with him?
Okay, so my first business mentor was somebody called Michael Gudgeon and John Gudgeon. And John had a surfboard fin company here, Multi-Fins in Byron Bay. And he went into business coaching and he was a good friend. And so I turned to him first. And then when I turned to him, he taught me of several things. But when I came back to Australia and started Green Energy, I met a person called Arthur McKinley, who was a publicist, and he became my long-time mentor right up until now. Okay. And he's actually valuable. He's on the board of directors of companies as an advisor. Yeah. And I just turned to him when anything I needed to know needed to be done.
Yeah, so they were different industries, but they were more experienced and had transferable skills that they could coach you in.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
So as a business mentor, they would teach me basic business principles that I failed on. Many things, just organisation, financial, planning, those sorts of stuff, which I could, I was never very good at. I was always good at getting the money out the door, getting the product out the door, sometimes forgetting to ask the money, thinking just because I made a good product, I would make money.
That's right? Sometimes in business, as long as you've got money coming in, you think everything's sweet. You're like, oh, but hang on.
And I get that, we've got a good idea, we've got a good product, everyone's going to buy it, everything's going to be sweet. But it doesn't happen that way. Yeah.
So from there, you had elite colleges or elite training.
Yep.
You've obviously got a real passion for training. Did that come because you had coaches and mentors, and you had experienced the difference that could make?
I think elite colleges was a real change for me to go into another genre of an area. Although still in sales and still, because selling training courses is still sales.
Yeah.
And I've discovered I was a good salesman and a good communicator later in life. But the passion there has always been for training. Through my 15 years of hospitality experience, where we were training people all the time, through the surfboard industry, I trained many shapers, through just staff in greener energy from a raw business, training that staff. It was a natural transition to say, hey. And so I approached 6 of the top RTOs in Australia and used my sales and my business planning, and we started our business from scratch. And we did that here in Ballina, and we ended up with about 15 people working for us on the phones in the office. And it was a very successful business. And my passion for training, sales, all came together in that sort of business.
And was that business the one in which you had the most number of staff?
No, well, originally in my business, I had about 30 staff in the business that won the Business Award, which was the Bamboo Surfboards Australia. But no, this was probably the most we had. In my cafe that I had recently, we had around about 12 or 13 staff there.
Beautiful. And that was the Coast Cafe, the only TripAdvisor 5-star rated cafe and restaurant in the area.
Yeah.
And I believe that you ran that with your wife, who is a fantastic chef.
Yes.
Now, for anyone listening, tell us, what's the inside scoop and all of the tips on working with your better half? Because I know for some people it's a real struggle.
I think there's a real story there. When I first met my wife, I was shaping, and I met her in England, and she had her restaurant. She's had about 3 restaurants in England. And so to see each other, we decided I'd go and work as a waiter.
Okay.
And, at nearly 50, I'm working as a waiter. You think, what would you do as a waiter? But what terrific training ground is for customer service and sales.
Absolutely.
Is being a waiter, and hospitality is. Organisation, planning, knowing your product. It's all a really great training ground for that. And we realised that we both had special skills in that part. And one of the secrets to working with each other is knowing each other's skills and having a clear roles and responsibilities within your partnership
Defined
and
roles.
within your relationship within the business.
Yeah.
And that's what made it a success. We've worked together on and off for years now. She worked with me in the energy section. Yeah. And then we decided to buy this cafe in Lennox, and we just sit down and we talk. So there's a lot of trust.
Yeah.
A lot of love, because
that always makes a massive difference.
A lot of love, because you've got to be good friends as well as partners, and you've got to really have your roles defined. Yeah. This time she was in the kitchen, she's a chef, I was front of house, I did the accounts, she did the menu planning. We really had those roles defined.
Yeah, and they were really complementary, right?
And the other thing that is really important is that you have the same goals.
Yes.
And that requires planning, and you sit down and you plan and you have the same goals.
Yeah, and I think that's a really important point to make for any business that you're going into with a partner, whether it's your spouse or, a purely business arrangement. If you don't have a common goal, you're not working towards the same thing, and it's going to cause a lot of friction. You actually ended up selling Coast Cafe. So a lot of people who are listening don't necessarily have exit strategies when they go into their business.
Yep.
How did you go about that process of selling?
I consider that the Coast Cafe was one of the most successful because everything came to plan.
Yeah.
It wasn't the most successful in that we worked so many hours. We worked 7 hours a week in that cafe.
That is hospitality, right?
And it's hospitality, and we lived and breathed that business, and we lived out of the business. But when we first bought that business, it was very run down, and everything went bad. All the equipment. I did a cash flow forecast before I went into the business. Yeah. We looked at what we would, perhaps make and how we're going to do the business. We worked out how it was going to look, all those sorts of things. But the inevitable happened. Is the worst. Everything broke down, so I had to do a brand new plan and cash flow.
Yeah.
And the other thing was the location we were in became very important. Yeah. We thought we could drag a lot of people in, but it was always an effort, even with the good food and service that we did. And we soon realised that business would not make us millionaires. We'd be working very hard, so we had to have an exit strategy. Our exit strategy was build the business up, get it going, get to the best possible thing that we could, and sell it within 3 years.
Yeah, beautiful. And you identified that fairly early on in the
first
business
6 months,
process,
yeah,
right?
In the first 6 months, we realised we thought we may be there longer if circumstances had changed.
Yeah.
But good business planning is about adapting to change and changing your direction when it's needed.
Yeah.
And that was a really good, I think, one of the best decisions we made. So after 3 years, 5-star TripAdvisor, we were flat out busy. We'd sold that business, we advertised it, sold it, and the wonderful thing is, foresight. We didn't know COVID was coming, but we sold it before COVID.
I know. I was just thinking that. I'm like, my God.
So, everything went right in that business.
Yeah, very fortuitous.
I'm not saying there was everything go wrong in the business too,
yeah.
But the right thing is that the planning went. I considered it was a success because everything went to plan for the 3 years. We got out, we were tired, but we were happy, we got our money, and away we go. And that's when I got into business mentoring.
You've said that with the businesses, some were definitely more successful than others. Coast was a great success.
Yep.
What did you find the greatest challenges were in the startup phase of your businesses? Was there a commonality amongst that?
There is, and the startup phase is one of the hardest parts, and that's what gives me my passion with ETC as a training company, because we're there right from the startup, and we help people get the business acumen and credentials to do their business plan, their financial plan, and their marketing plan.
Yeah.
And there are 3 essential things that you have to have: research, and you become your own expert in your own business, and that's really important. Because if you don't know your product and your business and your market and all those things that are important for your business success, then how are you going to start it? How are you going to go? And I often say to people, as I was when I was younger, they're in a rush to fail.
Yes.
They want to get it going. You want to do it.
Yeah.
You want to get going. But in that, energy and that drive can be one of the faults that you have.
Yeah.
And so what we want to do is just take the time to breathe, do your research, do your planning, look at the finances, cash flow forecasts. Yep. They may seem very boring, but they won't be boring when the business is a success. Okay?
Absolutely. I think we're really sold on the concept of quantum leaps currently, with a lot of self-development and business, and we look for like the shortcut. But really, if you're not prepared to put in the effort for research, a quantum leap is really the sum of a whole bunch of baby steps, right?
Yep.
And you are actually hand-holding people through that startup process. So it's through the Self-Employment Assistance Program. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
The Self-Employment Assistance Program is a fantastic program. Right from the very start, people think about it as you're starting your business and being supported for your business. But even before that, I'm very passionate about a program that I run there, which is called Exploring Self-Employment Workshop. And that's just 2 weeks finding out the basics about what it's like to run a business. Now, many people have never had their business before or not been in business, but even managers of other businesses have never worked for themselves. And working for yourselves puts a whole new dimension on using your own money, planning with your own money, talking to your own customers. All of a sudden, everything's on you, and some people can really freak out about that.
Yeah.
So that course first gives you a really good indication of where to find your target market, how to find your market, your costings, what legal processes you're going to need, what financial processes you're going to need.
And I think a lot of entrepreneurial minds have multiple business ideas at the same time, right? So you help people.
One of the things that we do there in self-employment assistance is help hone their business, viability.
Yes.
To make sure that their idea is going to be a viable idea, that they actually got a chance of making some money out of it.
That's it.
So with that self-employment assistance, then you go on to do a couple of skill sets under training.
Okay.
And people designed with, who are on Centrelink or on some sort of benefit have this, and it's a free service. Okay.
Awesome.
And for that, you get 8 weeks where you get your business plan, your financial plan, and your marketing plan done, and then you set off on your road to having a business.
Yeah.
But with that, you get 12 months of mentorship.
Yeah, perfect.
All right, and we help you along the way for those 12 months to just to have that mentor there. We encourage you to have other mentors, but there's a team of us here. We have a team on the North Coast. There's 3 very talented people in my team here, and on the rest of the North Coast in a diverse range of business experience, and we all come together. And we can talk about that, and you have that resource for you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
And I understand there's also a bit of financial support as well for people whilst they're doing.
There is.
12-month
Yeah.
mentorship.
There's financial support for 9 months of the program.
Yep.
Okay, and they also help with rent assistance during that time. And the financial support is not indexed by how much you earn. Yep. You can actually earn as much as you like in your business over that.
Awesome.
And you still get that financial support. And in fact, if you're struggling with your business, as some people do, and you have to work a couple of extra days, whether it's in hospitality or somewhere else, you can earn up to $640 a week and still get that money. So there's a real kick here to get people started by it's giving people the first customer almost.
Yeah.
And all you have to do is treat that customer like a good customer.
That's right.
And that customer can help give you business advice as well, which is great.
Yeah.
I sort of think, why didn't I have that when I was younger? The opportunity now for people starting their own business is immense. And you know this through the Entrepreneurial Facilitators.
That's it. Yeah.
That there is so much help being given out there for people so they're not alone in their business.
Yeah, absolutely right. As you know, it's New South Wales Small Business Month, the theme of which is Connect for Success.
Fantastic.
And that really does make such a massive difference in the startup phase of your business. I know when I had my own business, I was working from a home-based office, and it can be super isolating at times, and maintaining that level of motivation day in, day out to do all of the things, because at the very start you literally wear all of the hats, can be very draining. And it's the ability to connect in with those supportive systems that really makes all the difference. And I know there's a lot more available now than there was 10 years ago, when I was starting out.
Oh, absolutely. I didn't mention this before, but I actually did what was the old self-employment assistance NICE in 1991, and I failed. I had a great business idea, but I just didn't get it going, and I didn't take advantage. But now, and that's why I'm so passionate about now that people, we can give them the opportunity and encourage them to take this opportunity and see that the networking that assistance we have through the different organisations here on the North Coast and through New South Wales can really make them see that they're not alone in their business journey.
Yeah.
Their adventure can be helped along.
That's it.
By people with experience and people who want to help. They're just not paid to help, they want to help as well. Because if you're in this industry, you need to want to help people.
And most of them have been small business owners previously, so they have the practical real life experience, not just the academic know-how, and that makes a massive difference. I know with Business Connect, also a free program, where you can get a large number of free hours for your business over a space of 3 years of one-on-one business advisory, workshops, webinars. It's an amazing service, and it's all free. You just need to know about it. And it will be linked in the show notes, by the way, all of this. I think one of the biggest challenges as well for small business and startups over the last 2 or 3 years, particularly with COVID, has been mental health with that isolation, and with all the requirements to pivot and change constantly. I know that there's a really great support system through Beyond Blue called New Access. Have you had opportunity to sort of refer people into that? What sort of feedback have you had?
Look, we've been very fortunate that most of the people we've had have been pretty good, but during the COVID period, there was an immense amount of mental distress, and then the floods hit.
Absolutely.
So, we have a great need for people to, and like myself, to be aware of the mental needs for these people who are not only trying to start a business, keep a family, keep food on the table, may not have somewhere to live. I had people that lost everything in the floods. And I could tell a little story. A person who lost their house and was flooded. They finally got back in their house, and then their house burnt down.
Oh my God.
And, they had a coffee cart, and I rang them and they were thinking how they could get their coffee cart to get going again.
Yeah.
I mean, that is fantastic. Still focused. And yes, Beyond Blue is a fantastic organisation that will help people. And we encourage people to go and see whether it's their medical professional, there's free help out there for mental help, under the care plans and things like that. It's a big part of mentoring to make sure that they're not only successful in business, but of course their life is of a higher quality than just, being stressed.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the things that I do love about the new access through Beyond Blue is you don't need a GP referral. So, I know that I've had clients I've worked with, and it's like a 6-session program, free, and it's specifically geared and targeted to challenges that small business owners encounter. So, for anyone that sort of is a bit reticent as well to go and see your GP and fill out one of those questionnaires that assesses you, it's a really easy way in to get some support.
So for me, can I say for that, for me, I've really never suffered from anything that's affected me in the mental stress sense. I've been stressed and I've been like that, and I just think it's important for anyone that's not used to dealing with that to understand it.
Absolutely.
And I had to understand it before I could help.
Yeah.
So I encourage people who may be dealing in that to help and understand as well. And any sort of contact with Beyond Blue or anyone with mental health strength, or you can actually do a mental health check for people and a mental emergency check people. There's courses out there to do that. I think that's very, very important.
Yeah, absolutely. Because even as small business owners, if you're not suffering in your own mental health and well-being, chances are that some of your suppliers or clients or customers most definitely will be at this point in time. So Frank, I was also one of the very lucky people who, when I started my business, was able to do so under the NEASE program, now the Self-Employment Assistance Program. And it was super valuable having that mentorship and coaching. But there was still a gap in some of the skill sets I needed to learn. For example, digital media and establishing my digital footprint. In the end, I had to teach myself. At that stage, it was all like Instagram was still relatively new. And there was also things like finance, financing my business. How did I go about getting loans and that sort of thing? Talk me through a couple of the options that are available now and for people to actually teach them those skill sets.
Well, there's really some incredible options. And in a business, if you want to get professional help in any of those areas, it costs you a lot of money.
Yes.
And most of the startup businesses that we're dealing with don't have the capital funds. I mean, they're starting with something that's very little, and they're starting with their energy and their knowledge. So we try and help that knowledge by advising them where they can go to get this help. So ASBAS is fantastic. We have Lisa Little from the North Coast here. We'll give all people with an ABN 3 hours of free digital help.
Amazing.
And digital is so important these days that we have several days on that, building a digital footprint, how you're going to have a web presence. Ever since COVID, people have realised that they need to be on the net to have something in their business to direct people, either with direct sales or direct them where they're going to sale, or even give people some knowledge about who they are and what they are and what they're doing.
Absolutely.
So I think that's very good. Finance-wise, we have many rivers here on the North Coast. Even Service New South Wales can tell you about the different grants and loans that are available and the help that's there.
Beautiful.
So we try and direct people through ETC where the necessary parts of their particular needs. Yeah. Everyone is different. As business mentors and as trainers, that's what we do there. We try and, it's a personalised service really, where you can go to help you with the business that you want.
Identify those skills gaps and needs. Incredible. Yeah, absolutely. I've found another way of staying really connected that worked for me was becoming involved with the local chambers of commerce. Now, I know sometimes people don't necessarily have the full amount for membership necessarily, depending on which region you are, but you can still attend events, that's right, without being a member.
Absolutely. I'm very passionate about that. In fact, here in Ballina, I was the business development manager for a short time for the Ballina Chamber of Commerce to help them out with membership. And it's a really important part of networking.
Yeah. And
networking on a local basis can really help. Even when I had my cafe, I used to go to once a month networking events at the Byron, at the Ballina Lighthouse Surf Club. And that's where I met my signwriter. That's where I met one of my copywriters.
Awesome. Yeah.
So those sort of events, people are there to look for work and share their work and share their knowledge.
That's
and
it.
networking's all about giving.
Yeah,
Okay?
absolutely.
And that can really help your business by doing that.
Yeah, I think that's a really important point, that when you do go to a networking event, you look for what you can give, not just what you can get, you
That's
know?
right,
Connecting in, because it is really a community, you know?
Yeah.
And it's that symbiotic relationship, you know? You're learning from each other, you're feeding into each other's businesses and really supporting each other. You know, I know a lot of people even become friends, you know, on a social level outside of the chambers. So they're a really important support. And of course there's, you know, depending on what region you're from, there's quite a few different networking, I guess, groups available that you can join, and you can usually go to events just by paying for a ticket to the event, not necessarily getting membership. If you are bootstrapping, which many of us are.
And you know, networking is not just on a local basis. I still have very good friends with people all over the world that I networked before. You know, I have friends in Japan and California I've dealt business with who recommend this and recommend that. And we're still in contact 20 years later. And those contacts are invaluable. Recently I just had an inquiry from Japan for somebody to make boards and fins again.
Amazing.
And this is 20 years later. This is somebody I used to sell clothing to in Japan. So, you know, good networking are like good friends. They never go away, you just get more.
That's it,
Okay.
yeah. And I really prefer the word connecting to networking. Networking seems like such a dirty word these days, doesn't it?
I suppose it does, yeah.
Yeah.
I've always believed that, you know, people can help each other.
Absolutely.
And this is why we're here. By helping each other, you know, you gain something always.
Yeah. We're getting close to our wrap-up time, I think, Frank. I've taken up enough of your day. I really want to thank you for joining with us today. But before I let you go, got a quick fast four for you.
Oh, my goodness.
Okay. Most exciting moment as a business owner?
You said this before, and as a quick, you know, I started to think, what is an exciting moment for a businessman?
Yeah.
And it's different for everyone.
Yeah.
I asked my wife, she said it was supplying a fantastic meal in her restaurant, people are getting satisfied. So it's different for everyone, but for me, I think the most satisfying thing was the achievement of something that was successful in my mind.
Mm-hmm.
Although the cafe didn't make a lot of money and we didn't do terribly great out of it, the whole thing went smooth in the fact that we achieved what we had, we did our end goal, we had a great exit, and for me, that was a real highlight.
Yeah.
As a culmination of the business skills that I learnt over a lifetime.
Yeah, you walked away from it feeling really good.
I walked away from it feeling really good. And I think that's great, you know.
Yeah.
So whatever your goal is, if you can achieve that, that's where you feel good in business.
Yeah, beautiful. All right, best business advice someone has ever given you?
Hope for the best and plan for the worst.
Oh, I like that.
You'll need it every day.
Yeah. Yeah, and that was, you mentioned that was super important when you did first buy the cafe, because there were things that you hadn't anticipated,
absolutely.
but you planned and you were able to
planned
pivot.
cash flow, whereas my younger days it was hope for the best and hope for the best.
Yeah, that's one of the I think the things that is about being young, right? You always expect it to go as best as possible. Okay, favourite inspirational quote?
You can do anything if you want to. That's it. If you really want to do something and want to achieve something, all it takes is effort and concentration and the ability to make things happen for yourself. Yeah. And I know people have a lot of barriers, as we all do, but barriers that are to become overcome. And you can do that with the help of a lot of other people. So for me, anything is possible. You just want to have.
And this is why this guy is a great mentor, people. Okay, last one. Totally off topic, but who do you consider the most talented surfer currently on the circuit?
Well, these days it's gone a little bit weird, and I used to travel on the circuit because it's a shape for Sonny Garcia and a few of those guys, and I knew all those people. But I think John Florence is the essence of somebody who's maybe just come off the circuit now, but who's a talented surfer, great for the environment. He's doing really nice things, and as a young bloke, he's true to himself.
Yeah. And I have to take my hat off to anyone that can break their back and get 2 world titles back to back, right?
Absolutely.
You know?
Absolutely.
Yeah, someone that's got true determination. Yeah. Thank you so much for your time today, Frank. I really appreciate it. And I look forward to working with you again in the future.
It's been a pleasure. And thanks very much, Rachel. Thanks for the opportunity.
To our amazing listeners, thank you so much for joining me today. If you've enjoyed the podcast, please remember to like and share it. And if you have any questions, feel free to drop me a line. As your local Workforce Australia Entrepreneurship Facilitator for the Richmond, Tweed, Ballina region, I'm available for free business consultations, workshops and events, and all my details are in the show notes. Remember, you don't need to be great to start, but you do need to start to be great.